Here's an issue I haven't talked about: suicide. More importantly, teenage suicide, and why teenagers tend to commit suicide a lot more than they used to. Every so often, sometimes on the news, and especially in real life, there's always some smarmy intellectual that comes up on television or comes up to these middle-aged couples and tries to decipher the teenage mind. Exactly what drives us to do the things that we do, why we do the stupid shit that we do, and why we essentially love to off ourselves so much. One of the more interesting theories I've heard was, well, teenagers are offing themselves more often than they used to because they no longer pray to God. You know, these rebellious, atheistic, satanic teenagers are just trying to rebel against their Christian parents, and once they find out that they have no purpose in life without Jesus, they decide that life is meaningless. I'm gonna go kill myself. Really, because that's not the case in my school. Kids aren't encouraged to pray, but they're allowed to. There was a Christian club at my school that met every Thursdays, and what they essentially did was a group of like 20 or so people just got together, supervised by a teacher who himself was Christian, and they essentially taught each other how to cherry pick out of the Bible, and at the end of every session decided to pray. I would know because I almost had to attend one of these things. Yeah, but anyways, it's not that they're not allowed to pray, it's just that people don't want to pray in schools. The only thing that people who try and put forward that argument really are concerned about is that there is no mandatory prayer in schools. And you know what? Screw you, okay? That just discriminates against everyone who does not have a religion and everyone who has a religion that's different than this religion that you guys are trying to enforce mandatory prayer for. So you know what? Screw that idea. And even if you found statistics that proved that kids were happier and committed less suicide if they prayed in school than kids who didn't, well, so what? I could easily make that sort of case for kids smoking weed in school. You know, the kids who smoke more weed in school tend to be happier and commit less suicide than kids who didn't smoke weed in school. So are you guys going to tell every teacher to hand out mandatory weed before class? Because I definitely support that idea. And I think that's quite a bit more productive than prayer. You know why? Because at least if you get extremely high on weed, all you do is fly high. While if you get high on Jesus juice, you find yourself flying into a building. Too bad the teachers never let me start a club for pot smokers. Second reason why people think teens off themselves so much is, well, it's just the hormones. And okay, I kind of see this one a little. Teenagers are very much hormone-ridden creatures, but so are some adults, for that matter. And I'd have to say that teenagers, for the most part, have at least a modicum of logic that they can use. Some choose not to. Most, I have, from what I've observed, can at least think logically. So it's not like teenagers just decided to off themselves because, oh no, hormones just shoot through the roof and we feel depressed all of a sudden, so now we're going to off ourselves. If you guys have any more brilliant theories, I suggest you leave it in the comments section below, but those are the two most common ones that I hear. I'm not a professional behavior analyst, so who knows, maybe what I think is wrong, but from what I've gathered, there is one main reason why teenagers off themselves, and it's the exact same reason that adults commit suicide. It's because pressure does things to people. You know, there are a lot of things that kids and adults both face in school and in the workplace. For example, kids face peer pressure a lot, and adults face peer pressure too. Workload certainly isn't any easier for kids than it is for adults. Harassment is present in both the workplace and in schools. And there's always that one stupid motherfucker in both school and in the workplace that sucks up to the teacher, or in the case of the workplace, the boss, and gets all these special privileges while everyone else has to just drag through work and do everything the hard way while this motherfucker gets away with it. How is that fair? So why do teenagers commit suicide? Because the world is a terrible ass place to live in. The world is demanding. It does not slow down, and it does not stop for anyone. And we teenagers, like adults, can sometimes just be overwhelmed by how fast the world is going around us, and how little the rest of the world cares about our insignificant little problems. So what do when the pressure gets too much? We do drugs. We drink excessively. We party like animals. We do all of these things because we must. And we must because we have expectations to uphold. From our parents, from ourselves, from our girlfriend or boyfriend, from our friends, from society, from the media. We have to shoulder these burdens just as much as you adults do. And sometimes when the burden becomes too heavy, yes, it's game over. I don't know about my future, but if I have the current mindset that I have now, even in times of turmoil, I would probably never commit suicide. Because I just feel that I have too much to lose. I'd let down my family first and foremost, my mom and dad especially, who have given me food, shelter, and love for 18 years, and I'd just be saying to them it wasn't enough. And that's kind of insulting. I'd let down my friends for a very similar reason. And I'd let down society because I'd be saying that my situation is so bad I have to commit suicide. And I could not say that with a straight face without feeling at least a little guilty for the less fortunate members of society, the people who have to scrape together a living just to keep themselves alive. And I'd be saying that my situation is equivalent to theirs. These are values that I personally uphold as a teenager, and I don't need drugs or alcohol or Jesus for that matter to help keep myself alive because I know not to commit suicide. Thanks for watching, and may the truth always be heard.